What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of Stars and Garters. I'm Katie Pettiette, and once again, I have brought my dad to be on this episode because
We're
you
having a good
guys,
time.
we're having a good time. You guys really like him on the show. I've heard far more positive feedback about him than any other guest. So, we're gonna have him back. We have an interesting top 10 Tuesday. It's not it's different. We're not gonna be giving the same top 5 lists like we usually do when he's on here. So I had an idea that since we're both big fans of Marvel and DC, I thought that we would both kind of look at the differences between the two. So what's gonna happen is he's gonna be giving you his top 5 reasons, or top 5 things that Marvel does better than DC. I will be giving you my top 5 things DC does better than Marvel. So it's not going to be a debate necessarily. Obviously, he can and probably will, uh, like, rebut my points if he so chooses, but it's not really what the episode's about. It's just.
So you're going to agree with every one of my points?
Well, I don't know, because you're probably not going to be like directly
That's not what
contrasting.
the episode's about.
I don't know. You don't even have a list ready. He's making up his list again on the spot because he's
And
like,
yet, it will be outstanding.
all right, sure, okay. Do you want to go first?
Maybe they should comment whose list was better.
They don't ever comment. He wants you to comment, guys. If you won't listen to me,
I mean, there's one answer to the question. So.
they're not even made yet, but okay. Do you want to go first?
Nope, I'd like you to go
first. Do you? Okay, so number 5, my fifth thing DC does better than Marvel. So I assume that this is mostly going to be like a comics focused list.
Absolutely.
But I did just, since they're both like not just comics, they're also like companies and brands in general. I think that this is like also just a pretty glaring point.
Mm-hmm.
A very obvious glaring point that DC does better. It's at the bottom because it's not comics specific, but since just like considering the DC brand at number 5, DC has a way better animated universe than Marvel. Honestly, there's X-Men the animated series, and that's about it for Marvel. Meanwhile, DC has an entire DCAU, which it's like a real thing. Like almost all the shows and movies, they have a whole timeline of shows and movies that go together all in one universe and like go together well and don't feel super disconnected. And there's just many series, DC animated series, that have become completely iconic. Like you have the original Batman series, you have like the Justice League series, and then Justice League Unlimited, which are both super beloved and everything.
Personally own the DVDs.
Yeah. We have The Batman, which is not the original. Do we have the original Batman as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I did not know that.
Right when DVDs came out.
I watched the Batman animated series a lot when I was little. It was very fun. I liked it a lot. That was when I first started liking Batgirl, actually. Their Catwoman was a little weird, but other than that,
I highly recommend that series for a movie they did, Batman vs. Dracula. It was really well done.
All right. But yeah, they have a bunch of unfortunately, mostly rated R animated movies, but they're supposed to be really good. And then, of course, I have to bring up Young Justice, which is one of my favorite TV shows ever. Just could not recommend that show more. Maybe if you don't like organs showing, don't watch the 4th season. But other than that, could not recommend that show more. But yeah, Marvel doesn't really have much of an animated universe to speak of, and DC has a great one. So, anything to say about that?
Yeah, while I agree with most of your points, I disagree with every one of your points. They're all horrible.
All right.
And I can prove it with my number 5 if you want me to.
Go ahead.
My number 5 thing that Marvel does better than DC is they have a better animated universe.
Oh my gosh, you cannot do this.
Absolutely. Let's just
Are you
start with X-Men,
freaking
which
kidding
was
me?
just the top of the top. The best X-Men animated series ever. They brought it back this year with 97, and you yourself teared up a little bit and watched over and over again Gambit
Okay,
sacrificing
that's fair.
himself.
No, that's
Yeah,
fair.
that's fair.
That's fair.
That's one show. We're not talking Spider-Man, the animated series,
Okay.
revolutionary.
I did not personally.
We're not
get
talking about
to-
Spider-Man and Friends back in the 70s, long
Oh,
before
come
DC
on.
even knew how to draw a
Was that
picture.
show even good?
Absolutely. You had the
I can never
Iron
remember
Man, the
that
animated
girl's
series,
name.
Incredible Hulk, the animated series, Fantastic Four animated series. My goodness. And this is before 2000. Since then, you've had Spider-Man Unlimited, really good series on Disney Plus. Highly recommend it. They knocked out an animated universe way better than DC ever thought possible.
I mean,
That's my number 5.
I could not disagree with that more.
That's not
Just there are some like really iconic series from Marvel, but they're not together as one universe, and they're just not as like high quality.
true.
Okay. Also, I never got to watch any of the Spider-Man series.
All on Disney Plus, what you pay for.
I know, but I don't. Okay, whatever.
They did the Venom story arc just as good or better than the comics.
Dang. Okay, well,
Watch
so
it.
the next point, it's kind of, I was wondering if I was going to include this because it's always a risk in comics, even including this phrase at all to do with comics. Because at number 4, I have said that DC is more down to earth than Marvel. And what I mean by this is kind of literally, I mean, they just have less absolutely bonkers stuff. And to be completely fair, it is comics, so DC has plenty of bonkers stuff, but I have found myself significantly less times struggling to just comprehend everything that is happening in a DC comic than I have in a Marvel comic. Like, I just did an episode reviewing the Infinity War comic, and just chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Just crazy. Like, the amount of like godlike beings was insane, and I know that DC has continuity issues and rebooted their universe several times, but in the end, I feel like I've seen in my reading of the comics just less trouble not going absolutely insane with like just exploding everything, a bunch of gods all fighting, going into outer space and destroying reality kind of things, and just a little less overwhelming stories for me.
Cool. I'm ready with my number 4.
Go ahead.
Marvel has more down-to-earth characters.
So that's not exactly my second point.
Your points were so wrong that I don't like saying the word stupid, but your points were stupid.
That's not true.
Let me just say one of your points. You said DC doesn't have gods running around. There's a DC comic called New Gods.
Did not say DC doesn't have gods.
DC.
I know about
That's
the
right.
New Gods.
Right? Darkseid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so hilarious. All joking aside, anyone, including you, right now can Google an argument against Marvel versus DC, and it has always been, going back to the 70s again, that Marvel has more relatable, down-to-earth, real-world characters. You can Google it. It's there. I've read magazine articles about it. Let me just prove my point. Okay? Spider-Man, nerd, right? Happens to get powers, but still struggling to make rent. Still struggling to get his girlfriend to like him. That's one. X-Men, hated and ostracized by society, like many of us feel like we are, because they're misunderstood. That's a whole group of mutants.
Well, it wasn't just misunderstood. It was supposed to be about racism.
That's 2. Fantastic Four, a family, a wife, a husband, her brother, his friend, his childhood friend.
And
this is
Ben.
just normal stuff, Ben, his childhood friend, right? This is 3 groups. Love it. Now let's contrast with DC. Superman, alien from outer space that cannot be hurt whatsoever.
Not
That's
true.
relatable.
Kryptonite.
Wait a minute. Batman seems relatable.
Is
If
your
you're
point-
a billionaire,
Is your point more down to earth or more relatable?
more down there. It's the same thing.
No,
down
it's
to earth
not.
and relatable. They're the
It's
same thing.
literally not.
Okay. Bruce Wayne, billionaire. That's down to earth, right? Wait, I know. Let's go Green Lantern. He's down to earth by always being in space. It's where he's stationed in space. So you literally just made my point for me. I was truly going to make the point that
Are you
Marvel characters are more relatable and down to earth.
Are you going to just always copy my list, or do you have any original
You're
reasons?
making my points for me. I mean, like, I know it's not a debate, but you are losing handily.
All right, so my next one, my number 3, this is...
Would you like me to do my number 3 first so you can say I didn't copy you?
No.
I'll do it right now.
No, that's not how this works.
Okay.
So my number 3 is very important to me for any series because it has to have this done well for me to get into it. Because if we're talking about relatableness, like I am a teenager, so having young characters that are done well and not just made like a political point, which is often what they are done, unfortunately. Like young characters who are relatable but not annoying, who are who can be very good characters and have real struggles without being made political are very important to me, and I believe that DC has better young characters than Marvel. Now, this could have been largely influenced by Young Justice, but those are all characters from the comics, except for even the ones who
Are you saying this point was influenced by this?
Maybe.
You're not saying like Young Justice is a reason DC has better young.
No.
Just to be clear.
So I've even said before I wasn't sure if they had all their characters from the comics, but I did look into it. Even the weird obscure ones are from the comics as well. They've just been changed up a bit. But
I've got some points on that.
In looking into, so like the main thing for me though is like characters from the Bat family who we have watched growing up from young characters. So all the Robins, we've seen Dick grow up. We kind of saw Jason rapidly grow up, but Tim, Steph, Cass, all these people, mostly it's the Bat family who makes me think of DC's younger characters, and especially letting us grow up with these younger characters, not kind of throwing them in when you need a legacy character. So that's one thing that kind of goes hand in hand with this point. I like that DC does sidekicks that are able to grow into the roles of their mentors instead of a random other character who does have a slight connection to the character that they become a legacy hero for, but doesn't have a strong enough connection and often gets a lot of hate from fans because of that. DC has sidekicks that have a very tight connection and grow into a very tight connection with the hero that they go with, and people are very much more okay with them becoming the legacy hero for that, like Dick becoming Batman, because of such a strong bond they have. So they have young characters, they have many sidekicks that are able to connect with characters that people already love and connect in like a reasonable way, either being related or being taken in by them for like a good reason. And then they're able to grow with these already popular characters, and they also become popular because they're attached to this character, and they're just done really well, have very relatable and like fun personalities as the young characters do, as why I like them.
I was agreeing with you first, but you're just rambling now.
But they also have, all the cool superpowers and get to go on all the superhero adventures. And just, I think they do that a lot better with Marvel, who kind of just materializes young characters and tries to make you care about them with no real basis.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was just going to doze off for a second there. A lot of words. Word salad. It's good. You and Kamala get along real well. So, first of all, before that diatribe of syllables,
Well, you don't. Okay, what does that mean? Define diatribe of syllables.
Yeah. I was going to agree with you. I still agree with you. I mean, you hurt your calls with your words, but DC has always done younger characters better. I can't even counterpoint this one. I think that should have been your number one. Teen Titans, long before you were born, was doing younger characters way better. It's one of the things they had beat Marvel on that Marvel never really caught up on. I mean, if I had to argue, I would argue that Spider-Man was young, very young when he started. The X-Men were very young when they started. Fantastic Four was seen as young a long, long time ago. Avengers were never young, so they don't fit into that. So, yeah, I certainly concede that DC had better younger characters. So that being said, I suppose that my number 3 would be better groups.
Okay.
Better groups.
See,
Marvel has always done the team up better. They've always done the groups better because you remember, Avengers was long before JLA. Avengers was, man, I'd have to look into it. Maybe the first big team up team. And then, Avengers sets the standard. I mean, this is 60s maybe. Then X-Men come along. That's a great team and just only built, like just stayed together, only built. Where DC had this really bad habit of tearing down their teams. JLA has always been torn down. The greatest run JLA had, 90s. Grant Morrison. I've got 5 of them if you want them. Amazing books where they said, all right, we're restarting JLA. Another DC thing they do. Restarting JLA, we're going big boys. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash. That was it. That's the team, right? And for, 6 trades, I mean, just beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, maybe 10 trades. Look it up. And that's the one time where people were like, man, this is the JLA. And so they break it up. They mess it up. They're like, oh, we got to have Cyborg again, or let's replace someone with Red Tornado, right? And you're like, great, Red Tornado. Over here, we've still got Captain America, still got Iron Man, still got Hulk, still got Cyclops, still got Wolverine, still got, whatever. Storm. Fantastic Four has rarely been broken up. So, yeah, I would say that Marvel has always done teams better. Now, fair enough. A good Batman story to me, a singular Batman alone, maybe Nightwing comes in to help, but Batman alone is better than Secret Wars, where you got 47 heroes on the cover. But my point was better team ups. That's my point.
I was actually, when I was making my list, I thought, should I put that DC has better teams? And then I thought about it for like 2 seconds. And I was like, they do not. Because, yeah, they got Justice League and Teen Titans, which are both great teams, but Marvel pretty solidly has them beat there. So I will agree to that. Okay. My number 2, and I was kind of wondering about the placement of 2 and 1, and I wasn't sure where they should go, but this is where they are, and this is what this is, so we'll do it. At number 2, I think this is pretty obvious, but yeah, I think that DC has always had better, darker stories than Marvel. And I think that's kind of their whole, that's like probably one, maybe if not their big distinction from Marvel, is that they're both, superhero stories. They both have a lot of paralleled characters, but wherever Marvel had this character type or this team or this storyline that it can be compared to DC, DC's was darker. It was deeper. It was sadder. It was more complex and just tough. So, which I think is a big strong point for DC actually, because it's not dark where it's just like gritty and gross and sad and boring all the time. It's like dark where all the characters have very deep, effectual backstories that carry with them and come up time and time again in their life.
My only point there is pre-2000, maybe pre-2005. That's a wonderful point for DC until everything got kind of convoluted.
Sure.
Like Batman Incorporated really hurt my feelings in a lot of ways. Excellent point. I totally agree with number 3. They have better young characters. And your number 2, DC has always done the dark, gritty stories a lot better. I'm personally thinking of a 90s Green Lantern comic book where the bad guy kills his girlfriend and stuffs her in his fridge. And he comes home and opens the fridge and there's the body. I mean, this blew people's mind. Like, what did we just see? And it was that real, as you said, dark, like real life. Like, she's not coming back. You know, this is bad. Death of Superman was just monumental. Look up what that did to the pop culture. When Death of Superman came out, a wonderful graphic novel if you ever get your hands on it. Batman, most of his stories don't have happy endings. Long Halloween, Killing Joke, which is just a wonderfully written and drawn comic. But in the end, you don't come away feeling better about that. I don't know if you read my No Man's Land Batman trade, but in that one, Joker throws a baby at Commissioner Gordon's wife, and she catches it to save the baby, and then he shoots her in the head. And Commissioner Gordon is screaming at Batman, I've got to kill him. You've got to let me kill him. And Batman says, we do it by the book. We do it by the book. We can't become the monster. So yeah, certainly agree with that point. Excellent point. So I'll just contrast your point and say that Marvel does better lighthearted stories. I think Marvel certainly has done dark stories, and I can think of a few. But one of my favorite comics of all time, and you know this, even if you don't remember it, is an old X-Men comic that I lost, and I wish I still had it. But the whole comic, do you remember this?
They're playing football
Yeah, it was
without their powers?
It was Thanksgiving. And they just had a meal, and they went outside and threw a football around, and in the end, Cyclops proposed to Jean. And the very last panel was Professor X looking at his team in a beautiful fall scene in regular clothes, and he was just lamenting the fact that they didn't get these moments much. That was the whole comic. There was no world destruction. There was no fight. It was just a rare moment at the X Mansion where they were just living life, just people. Spider-Man has a lot of those. I've got a trade where he becomes a substitute teacher because he wants to help students love science. I don't even know if he gets in costume in that one. And then, of course, when you said dark, I say light. Deadpool. The original Deadpool, the Gail Simone. Do you know Gail Simone?
I've heard the name.
Yeah. So her run on Deadpool was like the first real one. Mm. And I mean, it was just fun. There was nothing he's turned into this murder machine. But back then, there wasn't even that much killing. It was just him doing zany stuff and then looking at the fourth wall. So it was good stuff. And there was no one in DC to compare it to, where it was just like, all right, this is a fun comic. They tried it once. I've got it if you want it. It's called Formerly of the Justice League. Mm-hmm. They take like Blue Beetle and a couple really...
Ted Kord?
Yeah, Ted Kord before he got shot. Another dark story. So yeah, I agree. All right, number one.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Deadpool because it's interesting for me, and because I know you've disagreed with this point before, but a lot of people have said it before. But for me, Deadpool is very comparable to Harley Quinn, but he has that same vibe of he's very fun, very goofy, kind of doesn't really care about anything else, just kind of does what he wants. But even with that, DC is still darker as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, terrible backstory.
A lot of
issues.
A lot of issues, actual mentally scarred in a lot of ways. Right, yeah. And comes up, and even when she is having her fun, it's the way she is this is very terrible.
Right. And I think they did that to Deadpool in later years, focused on the backstory. But the first Deadpool, you didn't even know. It was just all right, this guy's got a loud mouth and he's chasing an elephant. It's and to be clear, we're saying who did it better. Marvel had this long. Harley Quinn did not become popular until after the 2000s. She was a nothing character. The animated series is what boosted her.
The Batman animated series or her animated series?
No, Batman the animated series. That's the first appearance. She wasn't even a comic book character.
Right.
I have the comic they created to introduce her into comics. But she was pure animated series character. And even in that, she was very flawed. It explored the really tough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Much darker.
But,
we agreed on our last 2 points.
We are at my number one. And...
can we keep it going?
This is just interesting to me that I even said this because I've just been a Marvel fan for so much longer than DC. I've only recently started buying DC comics, but I'm going to say that the number one thing I think that DC actually does better than Marvel is DC has better characterizations than Marvel. And what I mean by that is I, I got into Marvel mostly because you did, and I just went to all the movies and saw all the movies with you, and you had the comics, and I just would look at them sometimes, and I saw a few characters, I guess they were cool. I just didn't really care about them too much, and only recently have I found like one or two characters that I'm actually really super into and want to see all of their stories and see all that and jump right into it. But so when I started reading, really getting into DC Comics, was I just, for some reason, off of a whim, we were in a half price books. I was in the comic section and I saw a Nightwing comic, and I was like, I don't own any DC comics. Why not buy a DC comic? And I bought the Nightwing comic. And it was the fastest I have ever come to like a character. Maybe in anything before.
Was he in Bloodhaven?
Yeah. Maybe Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter comes close. I fell in love with her pretty quick. But Dick Grayson just as Nightwing, I was like, wow, this is a character that I can just root for. I love his backstory. I love his personality. I love the kind of superhero he is. And it just, and then from there, just connected to Nightwing, all of the other characters around him, I am fascinated with Red Hood now. I love Harley Quinn. I love Catwoman, and just seeing their stories in the comics and actually reading it, just the way they do characters and the way they get you to root for characters is just it goes so much deeper than Marvel's character does, because they have backstories, they have problems, they have a lot of things go wrong for them, and it changes how they act. But it doesn't change how they act. They have very bad things happen to them, and then you always get to see how they, as a character, react, and they don't change. They still react as themselves in their own specific way that they do, but and it all this stuff happens to them, and they remain as they are, and you come to like them as that character, and it just stays very strong, and they are just very strongly characterized.
Can you define characterization for me?
Making a strong, not necessarily likable, but I don't know what's the word for you don't even have to like them, but you want to follow their story.
Okay.
And keeping consistent with that.
Maybe connected.
Yeah.
There's a thread of connection there. Like my connection with Nightwing is that under your father's shadow and trying to live up to this thing that you can't be. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. It was wrong. I mean, you're not thinking straight if you think DC has better characterization. For us, I mean, me and you, I think we could get way into Marvel characters better than we could DC. So for my number one thing, Marvel does better than DC, and I'm gonna go a little big here. Everything, and let me explain myself. No, let me explain myself. Marvel is better than DC. Okay,
I didn't know.
It's just a fact. Marvel started first. They got a lot of stuff right before DC ever became a comic. Detective Comics didn't exist. Marvel, Stan Lee and was it Jack Kirby, were just inventing things. Now, it's not wrong that DC took those things that Marvel invented and started making their own and did very well. Superman, that sort of thing. But Marvel just, they're better at everything, and they were always out front, right? Team Up, they're out front. Teenage angst hero, they're out front. Group that represents the marginalized in society, they're out front. Getting young artists that are doing things weird. I'm thinking Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld in the 90s. Marvel's out front. DC's always catching up. Marvel does giant, huge world crossover events than DC does it, right? In fact, the only thing I think that DC was ever in front of Marvel on was death of characters. They killed Jason Todd first. They killed Superman. Marvel doesn't get into that until much, much later, and they still really don't do it. Captain America is the only really notable example. They tried with Tony, and I've got that book if you want it, where he comes back. It's really weird. But only thing, everything else, and again, not to branch out too far, but Marvel was animated way before DC. They had animated shows way before DC. Uh, and then the Marvel Universe. I mean, DC had a huge head start on that with Batman '89 and a few other things, and then
really dropped the ball with that one.
Marvel just comes in and just says, "All right, we're going to create this 10-year beast." I know it's on a downward swing, but for 10 years, DC just shot themselves in the foot time after time, trying to replicate it. Now I think they're even. I think that both are in really bad shape. I think comics as a whole are in really bad shape. Personally, I mean, even the stories you're reading are old stories that you like. You're not reading new books. You're not looking for new books. You're catching old stuff and saying that really means something to me. And it's 10 to 15 years old. So that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. So I think it's dead even now as far as not good. But for a long time, let's just say 60 to 2010, Marvel was out in front. And that's just make mine Marvel. It's always going to be Marvel out in front. And I mean, you well know, Kate, Batman's probably my number one character of all time. I'm a huge DC guy. I think I've got just as many DC graphic novels as I do Marvel. But if the question is, what's the best? I think any rational comic book fan would say Marvel.
Yeah.
So that's mine. Everything. But I really did appreciate your list. It was well thought out, and you made some really good points.
I just think something like with that characterization point, it just is why I have a kind of like, I don't know if I would say deeper connection with DC, but because I was more like, because I had an animated series that I kind of grew up watching that was DC, which that kind of gave me like my first character that I kind of could see myself in, because with Batgirl I always kind of related to her, and I still like as Oracle I've always vibed with Batgirl really. Absolutely. And that was like the first time that like I had seen a superhero show, and it's like superheroes.
Was that on Batman?
Yeah, the Batman.
Yeah.
So I have always, that was the first
this
time.
This is interesting to me, because I thought a point you were going to make was that DC did women better.
I thought about that, but
I would have gone with you on that. I think that's why you like DC better on characterization.
It could be,
is because they've got the strong female. I mean, Wonder Woman was
light
years ahead of anything Marvel put out. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of the first good Marvel, starring female character where people were like, "This is, man, I wonder what the first Marvel standalone book was." Because Miss Marvel is movies. She's nothing in the comics.
Like Long Hands Miss Marvel? Or Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel, sorry. She was Miss Marvel. So maybe Jean Grey. Okay. Never had her standalone book, though. But maybe Jean Grey.
She's getting one.
Well, I mean, she's had many since then. But so Jean Grey, maybe. And then, Miss Fantastic, part of a team. Wasp, part of a team, not the feature player. So, yeah, man, I really don't know the answer to that question. I'll go Jean, and then, man, I don't know, because Black Cat, Spider-Man, just always bad sub-character.
Oh. I wanted so hard for her
now,
to be
for me, personally, the first one I ever took notice of was Rogue.
Oh, man, Rogue
stands out, but that's 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe late 70s. So, yeah, I think DC definitely can get to the ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Birds of Prey. Early on.
There's so many feelings about those series.
Have you ever done early Birds of Prey?
Not early.
Like early, like 90s?
Not early.
Because you got Oracle, you got
I've always loved Black Canary.
And then Huntress.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big time stuff.
Huntress is interesting.
But 90s Huntress is way different. She was that tortured soul.
Yeah.
I've got a Huntress book in there.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, and I was just like, right now there's just more. I just haven't gotten deep into what the heck. I haven't gotten deep enough into DC Comics because I already have a lot of female Marvel characters that I already really like Kate Bishop.
It's a fair point that they really tried hard with X-23.
I love X-23. But yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We went long this time.
Yeah, we did.
Good
But it
conversation.
was fun. Yeah, good times. Good times.
Good discussion.
Good discussion. All right, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to comment and like and share and subscribe and do all the stuff. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.